Okay, so just to set the context for this session, firstly, thank you all of you for waiting back for the last session. The last 3 years, when we set up AHA, I've gone around talking at various forums, and everywhere the theme was, regional and local OTTs and how successful the local story in OTT has been in India. And this time when we were structuring this and we were talking to the IMAI team, and I said that, I think it's time to switch gears. What's happening in terms of the challenges on sustainability in Mumbai, it's happening across the country, and should we change the topic from the success of local OTTs to sustainability and the future? And that's what we're here to talk about. What we're going to do is, we're going to talk a little bit about, the opportunities and challenges that exist today. We'll talk a lot more about the real challenge of sustainability and what every one of our speakers have to say about that. And then we will try and take a couple of questions from the audience. Cool? Okay, it's a very serious room, so we're going to do something that I didn't brief you guys on. Let's first start with one fun fact about you. Aradhana.
I'm friends with you since college, and I've survived it.
Okay. No, use this.
I helped Ajit launch AHA, and I survived that.
How's it all become about me? Okay.
It's just been 6 months since we launched our app, and we are so far surviving it.
Cool.
Since it's about survival.
I like that. Fun fact. My fun fact is I've been trying to retire for the last 5 years and go and write books. I'm not able to. So I have to find the time to write the books. Cool. Switching gears. So I set the context, right? And I have been talking about the success for the last 3 years. And as much as all of you are in the midst of the same challenges that we face, and wherever I will step in and talk about it, but it's for you guys to talk about. So starting with you, Dhruvin, because you were the latest entrant into the OTT market, or one of the latest, and very nice app. Congratulations on that. I knew the other guys in Gujarat, but you've done a great job with launching this. So today, when you look at the market in Gujarat, both in India and overseas, what do you think are the things that you're most excited about in terms of opportunities? And talk about just one big challenge that you already see.
Well, so there's no real platform other than us right now in the Gujarati space. And so it takes a lot of, we're seeing a lot of requests in people, like they're trying to tell us we want to see this next and that next. And we already expanded our content library to movies, shows, and, Natak, which is theatrical plays, which Gujarat is a lot about, obviously music videos and other things. But when you consider the needs of the audience, I think you start learning about what people really want to watch. And you'd be amazed that people outside are far more nostalgic than people in India. And the people overseas actually are the ones putting up with more requests. Okay, this is what we want to see next. This is the kind of content we want to see next. So just learning about that and just seeing how people are interacting with the content that we put out every week, that's really something that is inspiring to us. And that's what's been helping the word of mouth for content to get around. Obviously, the challenge with Gujarati content is that everyone is very overpowered by Hindi content. And if you look at the numbers that we see, in terms of television consumption, or may that be, consumption on OTT as well as in cinemas, a lot of the contribution comes from Gujarat, and the Gujarati audiences. And very recently, the new trends of Gujarati, obviously there were Gujarati movies before, but now the trend has just come about, like we're seeing it in the last 7-8 years, as Gujarati movies have started to come up again. So the biggest challenge I would find myself in as a platform would be getting people to watch and consume Gujarati content in general, because they don't trust it as much. That's a fact of it, because the production value that we see, like I often keep saying this, that people in India and particularly in Gujarat want to, encash their value for money, right, when it comes to entertainment. So they would rely on watching a 200 crore movie coming from South, coming from different parts of India, may that be Hindi as well. So they would rather use their 200 rupees and watch a 200 crore movie rather than watch a 2 to 4 crore, 6 crore movie made in Gujarat. But unless there's a word of mouth, unless there's quality of content, or people really are admiring it, it really doesn't kick off. So the challenge would be consumption, but at the same time, that's a blessing, because as a platform, we get to showcase it to a lot of people, and people are really appreciating it. So yeah.
Absolutely.
Sum it up.
Thank you. Shomu, absolutely right. Learned from you guys and then launched AHA. So you amongst the local OTT players, probably one of the, forebearers of that local flag. Where are you guys right now in terms of the market? What are the things that seem like challenges? But also, I'm sure there are opportunities there still.
No, I mean, see, it has been a fantastic 7 years for Hoichoi. And while growth rates post-COVID were a certain percentage, but of course that has dipped down because the market is changing and it's dynamic, right? But from an opportunity standpoint, of course, international still remains one of the biggest key areas of growth for Hoichoi because, see, it's a language spoken by more than 250 million people worldwide. And that is a huge, not only Indian Bengali diaspora, but a Bangladeshi diaspora. And Bangladeshis are all over the world and they have huge payment potential. So that's why I think some of the international pockets are still huge growth areas for us, where we are launching every day in different countries and trying to do new things. At the same time, when we do a penetration analysis in terms of where we are in India, let's say some of the key Bengali pockets apart from Calcutta, we have, of course, certain percentage numbers. What we realize is while we are doing fantastic in metros like Delhi, Mumbai, Pune, Hyderabad, but in rest of Bengal, which is apart, all the markets are other than Calcutta, we probably need to evolve further because that is where the tier 2 town comes in with its own set of challenges, be it payments, be it propensity to pay. So these are some of the factors that come up during the challenges and probably also a big opportunity for us. At the same time, because we have evolved and we have grown significantly in terms of making content, today we feel more confident in even creating our own movies, right? Producing it. We did that recently. It's been one movie that we have released and we are trying to monetize that. So in the pipeline, there will be more movies just produced from Hoichoi's end. So these are some of the opportunities if I have to break it down. And of course, challenges will come with it, be it targeting some of the tier 2 towns or let's say growing in some of the international markets.
Thank you. Aradhana, I was so happy when I saw you on the panel list. And no, because we are friends, I didn't recommend. I got your name on the panel.
Because you got someone to grill.
Yeah, absolutely. I can see that, but we have just 31 minutes. So, what is great is what you've managed to do that you've taken some big shows like Idol and been able to make it in Marathi and for us in Telugu, which is why it's great to have you on the platform because at the end of it, a big part of our cost is content and a big part of our, the biggest bet that we have to get right for us to grow and sustain is content. So what have been your learnings? I'm asking a slightly different question than from the platform owners. And then in that context for content, what do you see as the opportunities and challenges in the context of regional, not Hindi and English?
So I think the rules of engagement are the same because eventually all content is reaching out to people, right? And people are about emotions. You mentioned idols. So it's about, if I was to take the same example, it remains pretty similar to what we do on national television, which by the way is 20 years this year. And then what we do, let's say in a Marathi or in Telugu, it is about the highs and lows of selection, the stories, where you come from, all of that, right? It is about the underdog finding an opportunity and really making it big in their life. Those are all the same, but what becomes differentiated, and I would also say the secret sauce, is the localization that we bring to it. I think that's really important. So wherever we're making it for, whichever market, whichever audience, and I really think that the word for that is community, right? Dhruvin, you and Shomu were both talking about it. That's been our experience as well. It really is a community and it's all over the world, which is great about OTT. But bringing their local nuances and really blending it into the DNA of a show that's been successful in 60 countries worldwide is the secret sauce. And we've had a great time doing that. We've really enjoyed discovering more and then creating for that audience. We've had great fun.
And a big challenge that you see going forward?
I could talk commercials, but I have a feeling that you're going to come to that anyways, so we can do it in detail then.
Okay, cool. So thank you. I think big themes in terms of opportunities seems to be international as one. I also think Shomu touched upon it that half of India is still not connected with good high-speed internet. So we have 50% of India still to cover. Those opportunities exist. I think pricing, competition for you, especially from Hindi, but for all of us from other local competition, will continue to remain challenges. But I think monetization is going to be a bigger one, which we'll talk right after this. Absolutely love the way you adapted idle in the languages. And I think that's a great lesson that there is a lot more transferability content that can happen and what we were talking last week. Also, I think it's time for India to make content that travels reverse, where we also have great syndication opportunities and revenues. I mean, there's no reason why we keep taking idle and Big Boss and not send out content from here. Korea is doing it, Turkey is doing it, Israel is doing it, so why not us? So second question, which is the core of it, and I'm taking on behalf of the audience, I'm sure all of you are reading about the various mergers and acquisitions and at the valuation drops that have happened across, across platforms in the OTT ecosystem. And TV took 30 years to come to a stage where people are saying, is linear still alive? And having been in linear for a very long time at Sony and Star, I can tell you linear is very much alive and it's not going anywhere. Films are still alive, but people are talking about, is OTT nearing, its maturing potential in the 5 to 7 years run that we've had in India. I mean, I have a view on it, but I think you guys are reading about it and all of it, and that whatever is happening in Mumbai at a different level, that problem of sustainability, of being able to monetize is absolutely, affecting and keeping the promoters of even local OTTs awake at night. And since we all are so optimistic about it, I think it will be great, and that's why the core of this discussion is the next question. So we know that we're going to be here 7 years, 10 years from now. But what are the specific things that you are thinking about, both of you, in terms of sustainability to make this a self-sustainable ecosystem, profitable, generating its own cash while growing? We'll come to content last again, but let's start with Shomu this time and then Dhruvin.
So when we started Hoichoi, the initial few years was all about how do we break even. And I think honestly, with all the buzz in the market that people are aggregating together, some of the local players may not survive. To be really honest, Hoichoi has come a long way in the last 7 years, and probably we are maybe the only profitable OTT in the country today, if I may say that.
Whoa.
So, and that has a lot to do with the overall business model that
Okay, that was a questionable statement, so I wasn't going to applaud it, but okay.
So that's a lot to do with the business model that we have been able to build. So my take on the scenario is, of course, market is undergoing significant changes. Definitely, what went particularly wrong would have been a lot of players invested a lot of money in creating big budget shows. Probably after COVID, the growth that they saw, now the growth rates have fallen and it's become very difficult to sustain. Fortunately, we were able to balance out things and see, India is such a market that there will be consolidations, a lot of players will combine together to survive, but then there will also be cases where standalone platforms which has a very strong niche, which has a very strong local connect, they will also end up surviving, and probably that's my take on this situation. Little more from a, let's say, if I have to deep dive into monetization, right? What is the main focus of Hoichoi? The main focus of Hoichoi has always been direct subscription revenue, right? So definitely the situation currently with the market dynamically changing. So let's say 3 years back, Hoichoi was dependent on partner revenue to be at least 70-60% of the overall cash flow. Today, we have been able to significantly change that, and we are currently in a situation where, let's say, our subscription revenue contributes 70%, while the partner revenue is 30%. So even if the market scenario changes, it impacts us less today compared to what it would have done, let's say, 3 years back. We could have been out of business. And that has only been possible because of our entire focus on building the right code for the business, which is around content, which is around distribution, which is around customers at the end of the day. And I think every effort today, every strategy that is implemented at Hoichoi is keeping in mind the customer at the core, and whether that user will find value in paying to Hoichoi and whether that user will come back. So that's the core bread and butter of the business today.
But 5 years from now, do you see yourself as a standalone player, or you think consolidation will become essential for local players?
I think we still see ourselves as a standalone player even 5 years down the line. I mean, simple point of view is we have a very strong audience connect. Our retention rates are fantastic. Our lifetime customer values are fantastic. And if we are smart about how we want to do the business, and if we are being agile, I think we should be heading towards sustainable growth.
Fantastic. Dhruvin?
Sure. So, I mean, we keep hearing this thing that OTT is a cash burn business. You know, this is a saying as it goes. Obviously, getting into this, I would first of all like to start with some gratitude that, you know, I based my first investors presentation and I had taken Hoichoi as a case study. So, definitely learning from established platform like yours and very grateful to be here with you. But yeah, speaking of growth, you know, pretty much right now, we're on track to cross about 10 lakh users in a span of a couple of months, you know. So I definitely see the demand and the wish of people trying to consume content. Coming back to the point that I made earlier about, you know, people not giving the love to Gujarati films in cinemas. Whenever such movies are put onto a digital platform like probably YouTube or other free platforms, suddenly we see a huge spike in consumption, you know. So we followed that same trend and we sort of brought it onto our platform. And hence we've started the free route. I mean, we knew that if we started with a subscription route, we wouldn't last very long in the game. It was important to get people hooked first. So with this free model, now we're introducing ads, and very soon we'll be introducing subscription where the player, the kind of quality that we trying to give to the users will always be consistent, you know. So that I think we've taken the reverse route compared to, you know, Hoichoi, where they've started with subscription and people, you know, just paid. But here, the strategy is slightly reversed. Other avenues that we've sort of explored to be sustainable and moving forward is, we look at it as a larger mission, right? Like, it's not just about being a Gujarati OTT platform. It's so much more than that, you know. The idea is to unite Gujaratis at a global level, right? Today, some analysis I was reading which said that 33% roughly of world Indians are Gujaratis, right? So particularly the target reaches out to every single Gujarati around the globe, right? So I was just curious to find out that there's a stand-up comedy that we did, a show that we sent artists abroad, and we did a show in Bangkok with 750 audience, and it was a Gujarati stand-up special, and it was completely sold out. So apparently there's a huge community there. A lot of people in Poland, which are Gujaratis, about some 60,000, and they're all social groups. So we try to bring our culture, our art, you know, as Gujaratis to the world, and we get a lot of appreciation, you know. So artist tours and other avenues where we sort of go local and bring that energy out there. And a lot of people who are, you know, living abroad, they sort of resonate with this because they miss out on that. They miss that, you know. So pretty much we're the ones to bridge that gap, and they love us for it. So ideally, obviously, we're pretty young to sort of comment on our numbers and what direction we're headed, but we know whatever we're doing is working, and we just want to keep doing it.
One question connected to the phone call we were having on Friday. Unlike Hoichoi and AHA, you chose to start with AVOD. And that's one of the biggest questions that a lot of people have, especially investors, in terms of the sustainability of AVOD. So why did you choose that? It will be an interesting thing to share with the audience.
Well, to be brutally honest, Gujarati content isn't that hard to, monetize. I mean, particularly when we see platforms like YouTube, right? Like where each song gets about hundreds of millions of views. We see movies that weren't a huge box office success, but suddenly when they're put on YouTube, they start to make a decent YouTube revenue. You know, they start to get millions of views on YouTube. So we just pretty much following that you know, user behavior and applying it to the platform, right? Hence the free model, right? Because we know that ultimately it needs to be a household brand, and ultimately everyone needs to resonate with the kind of content. We're just still trying to learn what kind of markets are appreciating what kind of content, right? Like, for example, if we go to the rural, the tier 2, tier 3s, they have their own set of audience, they have their own set of music, which probably we won't listen to, right? But still it resonates with them, right? So we try to find and navigate and first just sort of give people the taste of what it's like to be fully consumed in Gujarati content. And then once they've become a part of the ecosystem, definitely we'll introduce subscription models as well. But definitely AWOD is also the space to be in. And while I understand that established, territories in general like yours, they have a lot of cost of production when it comes to creating content. Not so much here, you know, like the content production per, like if for me to make an extensively A++ Gujarati film would be something that you would spend on a B+ content or a C+ content. That's just the truth of the market, you know, it doesn't cost as much to create that level of quality content in Gujarati. And plus we've tried to mitigate our cost by introducing studios and introducing, you know, infrastructures that make even better content, you know. So, and plus we're also into overseas distribution, right? So we help upcoming movies distribute, and we become their distribution partners overseas. And that's the way we sort of mitigate our aggregation and acquisition costs. And parallelly, we give them an opportunity to showcase it to the world. And the more people are acquainted with Gujarati content worldwide, the more they tune into our platform. So it goes round and round that way.
Cool, thank you. So, Aradhana, this one is a difficult one for all of us, right? Content cost contributes anywhere between 40, 60, some cases 70% of the total platform running costs. And Shomu was alluding to the fact that post the growth of COVID, a lot of platforms, mainstream platforms, were very bullish about content investments. And the 30 crore show became the 60 crore show. The 60 crore shows became the 100 crore shows. And on the other side, I believe that the first generation of OTT content in India, from Sacred Games to Mirzapur to Family Man, Scam, and so on, probably in terms of writing were superior to some of the content we've seen in the last 2 years, but the content costs have been higher. And that's only on the original content side. And same with acquisitions, right? The film acquisition costs had gone through the roof. I think the correction has happened already. So as being on the other side of that storm, as producers, the tough ask of you is give us better writing, better content at lower costs. How do we get to that sweet spot?
So like any sweet spot, I think the important thing to do in that is to really have honest, authentic, transparent conversations. I think that's really important. It can't be that, okay, I'm the platform and I'm giving you X amount of money and this is the money that I have and then you produce this content for me. Having said that, what I mean by that in detailed terms is, see, we are also IP owners, right? So some of these formats that we have, like Got Talent and Idol, we own those IPs. I think as IP owners, we also need to look at costs based on where we are doing it, what we're doing it for, what's the scale, what's the market, like really be reasonable about it. That's one. The other is we need to look at costs across. So when you say 60%, 70% content cost, right, it's not just pure production costs that you're talking about. You're also talking about talent costs. And all of us, whether we're producing for OTT, movies, whatever kind of content that we're producing, we know that pure talent costs are through the roof right now, and they don't seem to be abating. You know, they're not going through a rationalization that is really needed right now. So I think those conversations together need to be had. We need to find solutions there. As pure production, definitely innovation in production design. Those are some real answers, Ajit. And knowing your audience really well. I like the fact that Dhruvin's sitting here and saying, this is what I'm gunning for, right? Such crystal clarity on that. So you can plan your production basis who he's going for, as opposed to let me try everything and then see what I pull through, because that's cost at the end of the day, right? And we did something similar at AHA when we were doing Telugu Indian Idol between season 1 and season 2. We had those conversations, we made those changes, and both benefited from it. So I really think for the good of this industry, irrespective of who's creating or who's distributing or putting it out there, everyone really needs to get together and look at this collectively, including talent.
And how do we get to better writing?
How do we get to?
Better writing.
You know, one of the ways of doing that is to really give chances to fresh talent. We've done that on some of our shows, and it's really helped. It's the longer route. It takes more time and investment and energy because, you know, talent may be very talented when they're fresh, but they don't have the experience. But that's where we come in, right? That's one of the ways of doing that.
Cool. So I think you guys covered most of it, and thank you for being very candid about it, all three of you. Just a couple of additional points from the chat I was having with somebody who asked me this to put in the annual report of one of the publications coming up. I think, you know, so S-word, A-word, and I think somewhere down the line, a hybrid model is the more sustainable way. I continue to be a big fan of S-word because I think young India will pay for good content. We just have to make sure that content's available to them and well distributed and in good quality. But at the same time, I don't think Young India will pay for content, pay as much to cover the cost of content. And that is where I think hybrid models are the way to go. And I'm sure we'll find, yeah, Shomo.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely right. So this is also something. So where does Hoichoi's next evolution comes, right? You asked whether we sustain in the next 5 years. It has to be around innovating around the business models, right? Today we are a pure play effort player. Tomorrow we may have tire pricing. We have to, and for Young India to pay, of course, it cannot be a very expensive price tire. That is when you do a lower tire pricing. That is when you do mobile-only plans. That is when you introduce ads on those plans. That's the additional business, right? At the same time, of course, another additional business for OTTs is, like you talked about IP. Hoichoi is also an IP owner, right? We have 150 titles that we have made. We are continuing to invest in creating original content. So today, even Hotstar is remaking some of our shows in Telugu, in Hindi, even doing GEC, right? So even on GEC. So that is also another next stage of growth and opportunities with IP. Ultimately, even if you're investing 60-70% of your P&L in content, and if you have a sound business model, you can always make money out of that IP that you own in the future. And that is where the sustainability grows, right?
Cool. The second thing that I think will be important one going forward is some form of go-to-market consolidation. And I know that you disagreed with that, Shomo. My view is that, and it's a utopian view, that I don't think the companies have to merge. But if we all came together, all the local players, we can talk about 100 million MAUs without having Hindi or English. And once that is done, then in the hybrid monetization model, to get a brand manager to take money away from, Meta and Google, they need to be able to see that consolidation. So I think utopian consolidation would be without selling equity and without losing control, to be able to go to market both in terms of distribution and sales together, and sometimes make content together in that sense. So that's something I think I'm a big fan of, that consolidation without, equity swaps. The third one, I think, is smarter content ecosystems. When I was in television, the number one player in Hindi went and said, okay, everybody's making, TV shows for an average of 8 lakhs per half hour. We'll make it for 12 lakhs, but we will show it in the content and the quality and the casting and all of it. Another player, equally successful, said, hey, we want to bring down the cost to 6 lakhs, so let's go and produce all our shows in Jaipur. And I think OTT players need to start thinking which end of the spectrum they are on and start looking at that content ecosystems, because you're right, just cutting cost of, just cutting cost inorganically is not going to help. We have to figure out the ways. But last and most important for me, I think from sustainability point of view, is much sharper storytelling, much more local. People call us the Telugu platform, and we have 4 audiences in Telugu that we create content for. What we create for Rayalaseema is different for coastal Andhra, is different from Telangana, and different from Hyderabad. And that's how sharply, So I think storytelling has to be sharper and better. And once you get that content right, whether it's acquired or, commissioned, I think that is the first step to sustainability. And I think you both have talked about some examples of that already. But yes, I think like all of you, while I wanted to put this as a session on sustainability, I think we are still a very young and nascent industry. I just think that fundamentally, like every young industry does, some of us have been more reckless than others. We put a lot of money behind there, and it's time to get those lessons and realize that the 2 years of COVID were not the real world. And the real world is now, and we correct and then continue to focus on the bricks and mortar and build. I think India is about 100 language country, not a one language country. And the day we acknowledge and we put our might behind it, we'll succeed.